Peace. In the reading, the word hadith has several meanings. One of them is events. If we look at proofs 12, 6, 21, and 101, it states, or that would be Surah 12, verse 6, 21, and 101. But in proof 12, 6, 21, and 101, it states that Joseph was taught the ta'wil al-hadith, interpretation of events. He was able to, someone would tell him a dream, and he would take whatever information was in that dream and interpret it into real life. Like this is what's going to happen. Now, another meaning for hadith is something new. So in 21:2 and 26:5, the reminder, which is the reading, God says this is something that is muhdath, right? Muhdath is new. Also in 65:1, God is addressing Muhammad's spouses and tells them that God might put them in a yuhdith, a new situation. Now we have here another meaning, a cautionary tale. In 23:44 and 34:19, these are people who turned away from God. Then God says, we made them a hadith, a cautionary tale. We made them a hadith, right? A hadith, a cautionary tale. You can read the context. They didn't want to follow the messenger. God destroyed them, and now they're a cautionary tale for later times to get a lesson from. Here, it means to inform someone with some kind of information. In proof 276, a group of the children of Israel was speaking with each other, and they're saying to each other, one of them, a group is saying, are you going to hadithun? Are you going to hadithun? Are you going to inform them about what was, what God revealed to us? 1870, Moses was with another servant of God, and he wanted to roll with him for a time so he could learn from him. Well, he said, okay, well, don't ask me anything until I mention to you the information about what happened, about whatever it is. Don't ask me anything until I mention to you the information. 31:6. These are people who lead people astray with lahwa al-hadith. This is disinformation. People with disinformation, they do this on purpose to steer you away from something. In this case, the path of God. We have here in 33:53, the people who was with Muhammad, God told them, don't come to his house before the food is finished being cooked. Come when it's ready. Once it's ready, you come. Once you finish eating, you leave. Don't stick around for hadith. This annoys the messenger. So, if that annoys the messenger for these people to stick around after they finish eating for hadith, for any kind of information, right? They stick around for this, whatever it is, they can't do it. So how can you have all these hadith upon hadith? You have the Bukhari, the Muslim, the Ibn Majah, the Sunan Dawood, Sunan Abi Dawood, Tirmidhi. How there's all these hadith? How there all these people who seen him do all these things pretty much 24/7? 66:3. Muhammad here told some of his spouses hadith and some kind of information, and they did what they did, and you can read the context. We have here in 93:11, Muhammad is told to hadith. Whatever favors that God gave him or whatever, God tells him to hadith, inform the people. 99:4. On the day of resurrection, the earth will report its to hadith, its information. Also, on a resurrection day, in proof 442, the people won't be able to hide hadith, any information. Now here, the word hadith means a topic, a subject. So in 4:140 and 6:68, God states that don't be around people who's mocking God's proof until they switch to hadith ghayr, information other ghayhi, other than it, information other than it. Here, hadith means information about something. So we have here in 29 and 79:15. Hadith. Al-hataka hadithu. Hadith, the information about Moses. Right? We got the hadith of Moses. 51:24. Hasn't that come to you? The hadith, the information about Abraham's honored guest. 85:17. The hadith about the forces, those who was going against God. 88:1. The hadith about the overwhelming. Al-hataka hadith ghashiyah. You know, this is the only places where the word hadith is pretty much connected with a person or an event. Right? So, we got hadith of Moses 2 times, the hadith of Abraham's honored guest, and hadith of the forces. Nowhere do you find the hadith of Muhammad, the hadith of the messenger of God, you know what I mean, of the present one who was Muhammad, or nothing about the hadith of the prophet. Nothing. If hadith was so important, if this term, the hadith of the messenger, if this was so important, and this was going on while he was living, and these words was being supposed to be thrown around with all the people around him. If that's the case, why nowhere is the word hadith of Muhammad is mentioned? The hadith of the messenger of God, the hadith of the prophet, is not mentioned nowhere throughout the reading. But it should be, because this reading been going on while that stuff was supposed to have been going on. If you go take the hadith collection, while the hadith collection is going on, while that is supposed to be a living history, true history, while that is going on, the reading is going on. So these terms that is in the hadith should be in the reading, because the reading is speaking the language that Muhammad spoke. And if the whole hadith, if that's the language that Muhammad spoke, then that stuff should be in the reading. Those people mentioned in the hadith should be in the reading. Moses is mentioned, Jesus is mentioned, the Pharaoh is mentioned, Zayd. The only person around Muhammad is mentioned by name is Zayd. That's the only person mentioned by name who lived around Muhammad. His spouse is not mentioned by name. His daughter is not mentioned by name. No one except his adopted son. If these people were so important, one of their names should be in the reading. Umar, Ali, Abu Bakr, Hamza. Someone's name should be in the reading. The rest of the word hadith that I'm going to tell you right now deals with the information that is in the reading. The reading is called hadith. Ahsan al-hadith, the best information. This is not a made-up information. This is not a made-up information, hadith. Which hadith after God and His proof will they trust? Which information after God and His proof will they trust? When it comes to the reading, the Quran, it just means information. So we have here 478 and 87, proof 7, 185, 12, I think it's that 111, 18, 6, 20, 113, 39, 23, 45, 6, 52, 34, 53, 59, 56, 81, 68, 44, and 77, 50. This all refers to the reading, the hadith of the reading, the information that's in the reading. That's all it refers to. So, hadith just means information. It means that you're informing someone about something. It means a cautionary tale. It means an event. These are the definitions of hadith that are used in the reading. It's never used specifically for Muhammad as a person, Muhammad name, or as a prophet, or as a messenger. It's never used in that sense. This is how it is used, and this is how Muhammad and those around him use the words hadith. And however they spell it, however they pronounce it, this is how they use this root, ha-del-fa. This is how they use this word. Peace.